Okay, madam.
Good morning, students. Welcome back to Zoology webinars of Model School for Senior Inter. Children, in the previous sessions of zoology, especially the human anatomy and physiology, Manoj sir started off immune system, isn't it? Now, in the first session, sir discussed about immune, that is a different defense mechanism, that is lines of defense, immunity definition he has given, and also he discussed about the cells which are involved in immune system, and also the organs and organ systems which are also involved in the immune protecting the immunity, isn't it? Now today let us get acquainted with the soluble mediators, antigens and types of antigens, and also the types of immunity in our body. Okay, so today we welcome Manoj sir. Sir, good morning sir.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, please take over the session.
Thank you, madam. Good morning, students. Welcome to yet another webinar session in immune system. Students, so this is the picture showing the immune system with the different organs, such as a primary lymphoid organs and secondary lymphoid organs, which are discussed in the part 1. Students, let us have a quick recap of part 1. So far in the immune system, you have learned about the immunity and what is immune system. So students, what is immunity? Immunity is nothing but the ability of an individual to fight against the pathogens, harmful microorganisms that enter into the body. So that ability of an individual is called immunity, that immunological resistance shown by the organism towards the infectious agents. And what is immune system? Unlike other systems, immune system is a bit different. It is not an organ system. It does not consist of a specific organs, though it is a functional immune system. It is a functional system, isn't it? And we have discussed about the lines of defense, like first line of defense, second line of defense, third line of defense. And we also discussed different types of immune cells, like T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, large granular lymphocytes, isn't it? Macrophages, natural killer cells, dendritic cells. Okay, so a variety of immune cells are discussed in the part 1, and we concluded the part 1 with organs of the immune system. So there are certain organs which are involved in creating or in the differentiation of the immune cells, okay, making them active, making them functional. Okay, so all such organs are called as the organs of the immune system, and which are differentiated into like primary lymphoid organs, secondary lymphoid organs. So all these are discussed in the part 1. Now let us see today's contents, what we are going to learn in this today's session. We start with the soluble mediators of immunity, antigens, and types of immunity. So these are to be discussed in the today's session. Now let us start with a soluble mediators. Students, a soluble mediators, the name itself represents, these are nothing but a broad variety of substances that are released into the circulating fluids, such as plasma of blood, lymph, which are soluble in nature. Okay, hence these are called as soluble mediators. Now let us see how many types of soluble mediators are there in the immune system. There are 3 types of soluble mediators. To start with, complement proteins. So all the complement proteins to form a system called as complement system, cytokines, and third one is antibodies. So all these 3, complement proteins, cytokines, antibodies, are included under soluble mediators, which are released into the body fluids, circulating body fluids, such as plasma of blood and extracellular fluid, lymph, all these fluids. Okay, now start with the complement proteins. So complement proteins are a broad variety of proteins which are in inactive. These are the inactive precursors. They are present in the inactive state, inactive as they are present in the inactive precursors, isn't it? So more than 30 proteins are there. All these 30 proteins are commonly called as complement proteins, and these complement proteins together form a system called as complement system. The main function of these complement proteins is to aid in engulfing or to aid in protecting our body against harmful pathogens that enter into our body. So this is the main function of these complement proteins. Generally, these are present in the inactive form and they get activated, isn't it? Once they come across any antigen, okay, so they will be activated. So there are again two types of complement proteins that are seen in our body in the immune system. So what are those two types of complement proteins? Plasma proteins and as well as cell surface proteins. So the plasma proteins means, you know that in our blood there are two components, that is plasma and blood cells, that you have studied in your first year, isn't it, students? So apart from the blood cells, if you exclude the blood cells, okay, the fluid matrix of the blood is called plasma. The fluid matrix of the blood is called plasma, which contains plasma proteins. So there are certain proteins which are present in the plasma, generally called as plasma proteins. So these plasma proteins, they form a complement proteins and as well as cell surface proteins. So in our body, certain cells used to have proteins on their cell surface, on their membrane surface, isn't it? So all the cells have a membrane, and on this membrane surface, proteins are attached to this membrane surface. So all such proteins are called as cell surface proteins. So both plasma proteins and cell surface proteins together form the complement proteins. These are generally in inactive state. Okay, when these are activated, when they come across the antigens, when they are activated by the pathogens, okay, so they form a complex called as membrane attack complex. So what is the complex formed by these complement proteins? That is called membrane attack complex, which is abbreviated as MAC, membrane attack complex. So what does these complement proteins do when they are activated? Simply they attack the infected cells, the affected cells, either virally infected cells or any kind of infections occurs to the cells. Okay, so all such infected cells or affected cells are attacked by these complex. Okay, and they make a pores, they enter into the cells, affected cells or infected cells. Okay, and by the release of certain enzymes inside the cells, after entering into the cells, they release certain enzymes which are responsible for the swelling and bursting of the cells, which is simply called as cell lysis. So what does this cell lysis? Cell lysis, lysis means a breaking down of the cell. Okay, so the breaking down of the cell is called cell lysis, which is brought by this complex, membrane attack complex. So these proteins attack the affected cells, enter into the cells. Okay, and they release certain enzymes which will disintegrate or which will destroy or destruct these cells. Simply by releasing certain enzymes, the size of the cell is increased, and that is called as swelling. So swelling of the infected cell, swelling of the affected cells takes place. The swelling takes place, the cell becomes enlarged by the release of all these enzymes called lysosomes, generally, that you have studied in your ninth class, isn't it? So when these enzymes are released into the cell, so the cell is enlarged, that is called as swelling. So over certain time, so what happens due to enormous swelling, so ultimately that leads to bursting, that cell is broken down. Okay, so this is nothing but the death of the cell, and technically this is called as cell lysis. So the membrane attack complex leads to the death of the infected cell, and this is how these complement proteins are involved in bringing about the immune responses against the pathogens. And these complement proteins are also responsible for opsonization. So students, what is meant by opsonization? So this is the new word which we come across in this immune system. What is meant by opsonization? So opsonization is nothing but the ability of the cells to coat on their surfaces. So generally what these complement proteins do, they once the antigens or once the pathogens are broken down or the affected cells are broken down, okay, and this opsonization brings or alerts the neighboring cells also, okay. So the complement proteins and their activities or the mechanism which is brought by the complement proteins together called as complement system, okay. So complement proteins and their action in the part of immune system, okay. So whatever the action that is brought by these complement proteins in bringing about the immunological responses against the pathogens, okay, in the affected cells or the infected cells, okay. So altogether that is called as complement system. And what is meant by opsonization means nothing but coating on the cell surface, so such that what happens, they're attracted by or they're clearly recognized by the macrophages or natural killer cells or dendritic cells, okay. So because of this coating on the surfaces of the infected cells, that becomes very easy for the natural killer cells or other immune cells to come and bind with these infected cells, and the further process is nothing but the cell lysis. So that leads to the death of the cell. So recognition, for recognition purpose, so opsonization is a process that is simply like coating on the surface of the infected cells, makes them very easy for their identification by the immune cells of the immune system. Next soluble mediators are cytokines. So what are cytokines? Cytokines are nothing but a broad variety of proteins. They are nothing but a broad variety of proteins. They are small in size. They are soluble molecules. Okay, they are released into the fluids such as plasma, lymph, extracellular fluids. Okay, so all such small soluble molecules, nothing but proteins, are called as cytokines. Okay, so the name cyto and kines, it is derived from a Greek word cytos, that is nothing but cell or a chamber, cytos. Kines, kindness means movement. Okay, so generally these cytokines, nothing but proteins, are released by, are produced by Th cells. Th cells means T helper cells. And sometimes in a typical condition, the cytokines are also produced by the infected cells. So most of the times, the cytokines are produced by the Th cells of the immune system. In a typical condition, the infected cells of our body also produce these cytokines. Now, what does these cytokines do? They bind to cell surface receptors, and thereafter they initiate the activation and differentiation of different immune cells. So this is the main function of the cytokines. So once they bind with the cell surface receptors, which are present on the surface of the cell, okay, and further they also initiate the activation of the immune cells like that T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, natural killer cells, macrophages, dendritic cells, isn't it? Effector cells. So all these are the different variety of immune cells. Okay, so they get activated, and the differentiation, like we have seen the differentiation of cells into effector plasma cells and into long-lived memory cells. So this kind of differentiation is brought by these cytokines once they are released. Okay, so this is the main function of cytokines. They also stimulate, apart from the activation and differentiation of the immune cells, the cytokines are also involved in stimulating the phagocytosis and cytolysis of the infected cells. So students, as you already know that the process of phagocytosis is nothing but the engulfing the bacterium or engulfing the pathogens, like swallowing them at a time. Okay, so that engulfing is called as phagocytosis. So once the pathogens of the viruses of the bacteria is engulfed into the cell, okay, into these immune cells, into these active immune cells. So that process is called as phagocytose. Phagocytose. Okay. So once these pathogens are engulfed or swallowed into the cells, okay, so the destruction or the disintegration process takes place. Nothing but the killing of those pathogens takes place, and which is called as phagocytosis. Phagocytosis and cytolysis. So cytolysis means, again, cyto means chamber or cell. Lysis means a breaking down. So especially in the case of infected cells, if the normal cell is infected by any kind of infection, either virus, bacteria, or any kind of pathogen, okay, so that the normal cell, once it gets infection, so that is called as infected cell. Okay, so these cytokines also stimulate the cytolysis of all such infected cells. That means the cell itself undergo a process of destruction or destroying, disintegration. The cell itself will undergo a process of a programmed cell death, that is called as apoptosis. So this is cytolysis, means completely the breaking down of cell itself. The cell itself undergoes disintegration. So the cell itself undergoes a process called as destruction. Okay, so this is called as cytolysis. Phagocytosis means engulfing or swallowing. Okay, so these two kinds of processes are stimulated by the cytokines. And these cytokines are mainly of two types. One is interleukins, another one is interferons. So we will be seeing two types of cytokines, interleukins and interferons. Coming to interleukins, this is abbreviated as ILS. ILS. So that stands for interleukins. Especially these interleukins are produced by WBC cells, white blood cells, or leukocytes. So the leukocytes or the WBC cells of blood produce or release these interleukins. And these interleukins are involved in the differentiation of the immune cells. As we have seen, there are different types of immune cells, isn't it? So the interleukins are involved in the differentiation of these immune cells, making them active cells, making them functional cells, isn't it? And involving in either phagocytosis or involving them in cytolysis. So in such kind of, okay, processes are done by the immune cells once they are differentiated with the help of these interleukins. And moreover, we will be seeing one example. What does these interleukins do? So there is one interleukin, so that is called as IL-1. So what is this IL-1? This is one interleukin among different interleukins. Okay, so when this is produced by the WBC cells, okay, when our body is infected, okay, so this is produced and this reaches the hypothalamus, the part of brain, isn't it? So these interleukin 1 reaches the part of brain called hypothalamus and it causes a fever response. So the average temperature, the normal body temperature is raised, isn't it, from 98 degrees Fahrenheit to 99, sometimes 100, based upon the infection, okay, amount of infection. Okay, so the body's temperature is raised or increased, okay, and that is called as fever. So fever is nothing but a kind of immunological response against to an infection or against to an injury. Okay, so this kind of fever response is brought by the interleukin 1, okay, on reaching the part of brain, okay, which part of brain? That is hypothalamus. The second kind of the cytokinins are interferons. So these are abbreviated as IFNS. Okay, capital I, capital F, capital N. So that stands for interferons. Okay, so generally these interferons, these are also nothing but proteins, isn't it? All the cytokines are nothing but a wide variety of proteins. Okay, so these proteins are generally produced by the virus infected cells. So if at all our body is infected with any kind of virus, okay, and once that virus enters into the cells of our body, okay, now those cells are generally called as viral infected cells, isn't it? The bodily cells which are attacked by the virus are called as virus infected cells. Okay, so generally the virus infected cells produce these proteins. Okay, and as these proteins has got the nature of antivirus, okay, so these are called as antiviral proteins. because these proteins are produced in response to this specific virus. Hence, these are their nature is like against this virus. These proteins nature is against this virus. Hence, they are called as antiviral proteins. Okay, so these virus infected cells produce these antiviral proteins such that what happens, the neighboring cells, so if there is a tissue, okay, which is made up of similar cells, among the group of similar cells, if one cell is infected by this virus, so that infected cell, that virus infected cell will immediately release these antiviral proteins. By this what happens, these antiviral proteins reach the neighboring cells, the neighboring normal cells, the neighboring healthy cells, okay, and makes them alert, gives that additional uh, the ability to fight against this virus. So like this is alerting, making them alert against this virus. This is one reason, okay. And the other thing is, by this what happens, the neighboring cells become very alert, okay, and their ability of defending this virus is also increased with the release of these antiviral proteins, okay. So interferons are nothing but the antiviral proteins generally secreted by the viral infected cells. Again, there are different types of interferons, okay. So the antiviral proteins are further differentiated into like alpha interferons, beta interferons, and gamma interferons. So there are three different types of interferons in the immune system. So these are antiviral proteins, and their main function is protecting the neighboring cells, making them alert and increasing their immunological defense. Okay, their immunological defense is increased by these interferons. Now the third kind of the soluble mediators. So we have seen the cytokinins, okay, and we have seen interferons, interleukins, okay, and the third one is antibodies. So generally the antibodies technically called as immunoglobulins. Antibodies are called as immunoglobulins. Generally these antibodies are produced by the B lymphocytes. As we already told that in the part 1, the B lymphocytes has got this ability of producing antibodies. So whenever these B lymphocytes come across an antigen, okay, when they come across an antigen, so immediately these B lymphocytes, the active, the functional B lymphocytes produce an army of proteins, okay, and that army of proteins are called as antibodies. So these antibodies are highly specific because they are produced against to a specific antigen, isn't it? So a specific antibody will fight against to a specific antigen. Okay, so they are very, very specific or highly specific in their functioning. So antibodies are nothing but an army of proteins, an array of proteins produced in large number by the B lymphocytes whenever our body is attacked by antigens. Okay, so the group of proteins is called antibodies, and they are technically called as immunoglobulins. Immunoglobulins. So the B lymphocytes produce antibodies, and they are highly specific to particular antigen. So this is, these white lines are nothing but antibody, okay, and this red one is called as red triangle, this is called as antigen, okay. So a specific antibody bind with a specific antigen, okay. So by this what happens, a complex is formed, okay. So that complex is called as antigen antibody complex, okay students. So this is a specific antigen antibody. So this is a specific antibody produced by the B lymphocytes to a specific antigen. So here this is the specific antigen to which this specific antibody is about to bind, okay. So this will bind only to this specific antigen, and by this what happens, by this binding, so this antibody binding with antigen forming a complex called as antigen antibody complex. And students, based on their mobility, if you see, mobility means nothing but movement. So based on this characteristic, that is a movement of antibodies, so we can further divide the antibodies into two types. One is circulating antibodies, another one is surface antibodies. So as you already know that the circulating antibodies can also be called as free antibodies because they can freely move in the circulating fluids such as plasma, such as lymph, okay, or extracellular fluids, okay. So as these antibodies are capable of freely moving or freely circulating in the fluids of our body, hence these antibodies are called as circulating antibodies. And there are another group of antibodies which are fixed. So these are fixed to the cell surfaces. As these are fixed to the cell surfaces, okay, on the surface of the cell membrane or plasma membrane, okay. So they are called as surface antibodies. So based on their mobility, that is based on their movement. So these are freely moving, whereas these are fixed antibodies. These are fixed. They are fixed to or they are attached to the cell surfaces. Hence, these are called as surface antibodies. When these are called as free antibodies or circulating antibodies. So circulating antibodies are present in the body fluids, whereas surface antibodies are present on the surface of the mature B cells and memory cells. Especially these surface antibodies are seen on the cell surfaces of mature B cells or active B cells and as well as memory cells. Now coming to the structure of antibody. So students, if you look at this picture, so he is the scientist called by name Rodney R. Porter. Rodney R. Porter. So he was a scientist who described the structure of antibody, and he was awarded the Nobel Prize in this regard in the year 1972. Okay, in the physiology or in the medicine field. Okay, because he is the scientist, doctor. Okay, who described the structure of antibody for the first time. So what is his name? Rodney R. Porter. Now here, this is the structure of antibody. So what is the shape of antibody? Antibody looks like a Y-shaped molecule. So antibody has got the Y-shaped structure. So this is how the antibody looks like in its shape. Okay. So this is like Y-shaped molecule. So see students, here also, this is nothing but one antibody which is showing a Y shape, English alphabet Y shape. It has got a 4 polypeptides, or you can say that 2 identical heavy chains. So see here students, these are the 2 identical heavy chains. So these are the 2 identical heavy chains, and these are 2 identical light chains. So as you already see here, light chains. So this is one and this is another light chain. Okay, so these two are identical. So 2 identical. So each antibody consists of 4 chains. Of them, 2 identical light chains and 2 identical heavy chains. Okay, so this is how the structure of antibody is made up of 4 chains, of them 2 identical light chains and 2 identical heavy chains. And not only this, the antibody has got 2 different regions or portions, you can say that. For example, if you see here, so in this picture, the purple colored portion or the purple colored region, so this is the region, purple colored region. Okay, so all this region, so this is the purple colored region. So this is called as variable portion or variable region. This can be called as variable region or variable portion, because this is the region which keeps on changing depending on the differences of antigens to which this is getting exposed or to which this is getting binded. Okay, so based on the differences of the antigens, okay, so this is the portion which is varying or keep on changing, okay, from one antibody to another antibody, as this is like keep on changing or varying in its shape in this region. Okay, depending on the differences of antigens. So this particular region is called as variable region and variable portion. So this is not constant. Students, see, the variable region is not constant in different classes of antibodies. Okay, and coming to this portion, so this portion is called as constant portion, or this can be also called as constant region. So as the name itself represents, constant, does not change. So this remains constant. Okay, so this portion of the antibody remains constant. Okay, so this is called as constant region or constant portion. So on a whole, you can say that each antibody consists of 4 chains, 2 identical light chains two identical heavy chains. Okay, and moreover, each antibody consists of two regions. Of them, one is variable portion or variable region, which keeps on changing depending on the differences of antigens to which it is getting binded, and another region which remains constant, which does not change. So that is called as constant portion. Okay, so this variable portion has got two ends. Okay, so this is called as FAB end, fab end, and this is called as FC end. So for each antibody, you will be seeing two FAB ends. So this is one FAB end, and this is another FAB end. So the FAB stands for fragment antigen binding site. So what does this FAB means or stands for? Fragment. F stands for fragment, A stands for antigen binding site. Okay, to which this particular place, this particular site. Okay, so this gets binded to the antigen. Okay, so this is the site, it gets attached to the antigen, hence this is called as a fragment antigen binding site. And the other side, so see here, this is called as a fragment crystallized portion, or this can be also called as fragment cell binding. So with this end, with this FC end, the antibody attaches to the cell surfaces of different immune cells like natural killer cells, macrophages, lymphocytes. Okay, so all these are the different types of immune cells. Okay, and all these immune cells carry these antibodies. Okay, so these antibodies get attached to the immune cells with the help of this end, that is called as a fragment cell binding site, or this can be also called as fragment crystallizable portion of the antibody. So this is the structure of antibody. Now in this picture, you can clearly see the light chains. So these are the light chains, and these are the heavy chains. Okay, and this is the site which we are talking about, FAB, fragment antigen binding site, which is abbreviated as FAB, 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 fragment antigen binding site. So this is like an antigen. Okay, so this is a specific antibody binds to this specific antigen. See here, so this exactly fits into this. You can see here different antigens. So this is a different antigen, different colored antigens. So students, you see, if this antigen, will this antigen come and bind to here, or will this antigen can able to bind to this antigen binding site? No, because if you see the shape here, see very particularly, so this is shape of this antigen binding site, which is called as paratope. Okay, so this is exclusively meant to bind to this antigen only, because this exactly fits into this site. If you see the other antigens which has got different shapes, so these antigens cannot fix into this particular antigen binding site. So what does this mean? So this antibody is specifically produced to bind with this specific antigen, and similarly for these different antigens. Okay, so their specific or their respective antibodies are produced such that the antibodies and the antigens bind with one another to form a complexes called antigen antibody complexes. Now coming to the structure of the antigen. So based on the structure, so the antibodies are further classified into 5 types. So here I just want to let you know one thing, students. So based on the structure, in the sense that each antibody has got a Y shape with 2 light chains and with 2 heavy chains. Okay, so especially the variable portion of any antibody, so that is not the criteria of for this classification. So the main criteria for this classification, the structure, is the constant region. The constant region or the constant portion is the criteria which forms the which is responsible for the classification of the antibodies into 5 different classes. So we have 5 types of or 5 classes of antibodies, namely IgD, IgE, IgG, IgA, and IgM. So these are the 5 different classes of antibodies. Okay, so this is done based on the structure, especially what is the structure taken into consideration here, the constant region of the the antibodies is taken into the consideration, and based on this difference, okay, that constant portion. So based on this, okay, so the antibodies are classified into 5 different classes, such as IgD, IgE, IgG, IgA, and IgM. So students, here this prefix, the prefix Ig refers to immunoglobulin. As I already mentioned that the antibodies are called as immunoglobulins. Okay, so here this prefix Ig refers immunoglobulins, whereas this suffix D stands for the type of heavy chain that it contains. Okay, so D is nothing but the type of heavy chain that it contains, and based on this, so this antibody is named as IgD. And similarly, so this Ig stands for immunoglobulin, and E stands for the type of heavy chain it contains. So as it contains a different heavy chain, okay, so than this, so this is named as IgE. And so as this Ig, again immunoglobulin, and G is nothing but G indicates the type of a different kind of heavy chain, as it got a different kind of heavy chain from these two. So this is named as IgE. IgA, again immunoglobulins, A stands for the type of heavy chain, and here IgM, so here also the immunoglobulins, M stands for the type of heavy chain. So for your kind information, students, it was not there in our textbook. So based on the type of heavy chains, okay, so we have got 5 different classes of antibodies. If you see the 5 different heavy chains, so they are named as alpha. So alpha starts with A, okay, and gamma, so G represents gamma, and E stands for epilepsin, okay, epsilon, sorry, E stands for epsilon, okay, D stands for delta, and M stands for mu, okay. So IgD means delta type of heavy chain, E stands for epsilon, so IgE got epsilon type of heavy chain, IgG gamma type of heavy chain, IgA alpha type of heavy chain, IgM, M stands for mu, so mu type of heavy chain. So based on these types of heavy chains, so the antibodies are differentiated into 5 types. And moreover, they are also classified into 3 types, like monomeric, dimeric, and pentameric. So the first 3, IgD, IgE, and IgG. So these 3 types of antibodies belong to monomeric type, okay, and the IgA type of antibody belongs to dimeric type, whereas the IgM type of antibody belongs to pentameric type. So if you see this picture, it clearly shows, so these are the 3 antibodies, IgG, IgE, and IgD. So these are the 3 antibodies which belong to monomeric antibodies, because they contain a single Y-shaped molecule. They contain a single Y-shaped molecule with the 2 heavy chains and 2 light chains. Okay, so the only difference is in their heavy chain type. So here gamma, epsilon, and delta. So these are 3 monomeric antibodies. Coming to IgA type. So this is IgA type of antibody. If you see here, see 2 antibodies, okay, join with the help of a joining chain. Students, see here, I have placed a cursor here. So here, see, this is a joining chain which combines these 2 antibodies. Okay, so 2 antibodies join with one another with the help of this joining chain and become a dimeric antibody. So this is a dimeric, di means 2. Okay, so the antibodies are 2 in number, so hence this is dimeric antibody, and these 2 antibodies are joined by or with the help of a joining chain, and this a spirally coiled structure is called as secretory granule. This is nothing but the secretory granule, and this is the joining chain. Okay, and these chains are these heavy chains, these are connected by disulfide bonds. So see here, red color lines. Okay, so these red color lines are nothing but disulfide bonds. Here also you see disulfide bonds. Okay, so if this is the pentameric type, the IgM type of antibody belongs to pentameric type, because see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 antibodies. So 5 antibodies combine with one another. Again, see here, this is the joining chain. So this is the joining chain, which combines or unites these 5 antibodies. So IgM type of antibody contains 5 antibodies which are combined together, and these are nothing but disulfide bonds. So see here, this is the disulfide bonds, disulfide bonds, disulfide bonds, whereas this is the joining chain. So like this, we have again monomeric with a single antibody, with the 2 antibodies called as dimeric, and this is pentameric because as 5 antibodies are joined together with the help of joining chain. So this is called as pentameric type of antibody. Okay, so of all these 5 types, so generally the IgA type of antibodies are present in huge amounts, like around 70 to 75% of the antibodies that are produced in our body belong to this type, IgA type of antibodies. And among these 5, the IgA type of antibodies are the smallest antibodies, and because of their diffusible nature, highest diffusibility, and because of their smaller size, okay, so they can easily pass through the uh, walls of the blood vessels, okay, and moreover these are the antibodies which are passed from mother to the baby, IgA type of antibodies. Sorry, that is IgG type of antibodies. So highest number of antibodies in the percentage wise, if you see, the IgA type of antibodies are present in highest percentage, okay, and IgM, so these are the largest size. So due to their largest size, they are unable to pass through the walls of the blood vessels. So they are mostly present in the bloodstream only. They do not come out of the blood circulation, okay, whereas the IgD, these are the least number of antibodies that are produced in our body. Next to this, okay, IgE antibodies are also present in less in number, whereas IgG type of antibodies, around 10 to 15% of the total antibodies produced in our body belong to IgG type of antibodies, and because of their highest diffusibility, okay, and the smallest size, okay, so these are the antibodies which diffuse through the placenta, okay. So during the development of the baby inside the uterus, so there is an intimate connection between the wall of the uterus of the mother and the baby, isn't it? So that is called as placenta, which provides the nourishment, the necessary oxygen from mother to baby, okay. So these are the antibodies that are produced in the mother, okay, pass through the placenta and reach the baby, IgG type of antibodies. So students, if you see this picture also, this clearly shows the monomeric antibodies, IgD, IgE, IgG, whereas dimeric, so this is the joining chain which I have discussed. So dimeric, and this is pentameric type of antibodies. If you look at this table, this clearly shows the different structures and the heavy chains, okay. So this is epsilon, this is alpha, this is mu, okay, this is gamma, and this is delta, okay. And number of antigen binding sites, it has got 2, it has got 10, as 5 antibodies are present. So each antibody can bind with identical antigens. So here one antigen it can bind, in here it can bind with similar antigen. So each antibody of monomeric type can bind with 2 antigens, whereas this pentameric 10 antigen binding sites, and this dimeric has got 4 antigen binding sites. Again, this has got 2 and 2, and their molecular weight has given here in their percentage. So 80% of the antibodies produced belong to IgG type, whereas 6% are IgM. Okay, so this table gives a clear information regarding their distribution, regarding their function, regarding their structure, okay, of different classes of antibodies. So crosses placenta. So IgG type of antibodies can cross through the placenta, whereas these cannot cross through the placenta because of their larger size. Especially IgG type of antibodies are responsible for allergic reactions because they produce histamine from the mast cells, okay, and contribute the asthma, okay. So IgE antibodies are produced during allergic reactions, okay, whereas the IgD type of antibodies act like a B cell receptors, whereas IgA type of antibodies, they help in neutralization and trapping the pathogens, especially which are trapped in the mucus, in the respiratory tract, in the gastrointestinal tract, and the urinogenital tract. The IgM type of antibodies, they help in neutralization, agglutination, and complement activation. And this is the function of IgG type, helps in neutralization, agglutination, complement activation, opsonization. Okay, so all these are the functions of IgG type of antibodies. So this is another slide which also gives some information regarding the different classes of antibodies with their properties. So here, this is the function of these antibodies. Now next, after the completion of soluble mediators, so let us see antigens. So what are antigens? Antigen is nothing but any substance that induces or stimulates our immune system, okay, to show a detectable immune response or induces the immune system to produce antibodies. Okay, so such a substance is called as antigen. So students, any substance that enters into our body or that is present in our body itself, so any such substance which is responsible in evoking or in stimulating or in inducing the immune response, okay, so which is responsible for inducing an immune response in our body by the immune system, so all such substances are called as antigens. All such substances are called as antigens. So generally these antigens, either they enter from the outside the body or they may be produced inside the body also. Okay, so these antigens generally evoke the production of antibodies. Okay, so as these antigens are responsible in the production of antibodies by the cells, by the immune cells, especially by the B lymphocytes. Okay, so all such substances are called as antigens. Now this is the structure of antigen. So this is a pathogen, okay, which contains on its surface, it contains a structure. This is called as antigen. So if you see here, students, this is an antibody. So this pathogen has got different antigens on its surfaces. Now, can you tell me which antigen exactly fits into this antibody based on its structure or shape? See, so this is like a rectangular or square shape. So this cannot be fitted into this antibody. Okay, so see, either this or this. So because of its shape, okay, so this can be easily fixed into this antibody. So this antibody is specific to bind with this antigen only. This is for your understanding, students. So see, if you take this antigen, if you consider this antigen, it has got a different shape. So this antigen cannot be fixed into this antibody. So this antibody cannot come here and cannot bind with this antigen. This is only meant to bind with this antigen. So as I already mentioned that antibodies are highly specific in their binding. Okay, even here also you can see this is like an antigen which has got the site with which it binds with the antibody. So this is the antigen, and these are different sites with different shapes with which it binds with the antibody. Okay, so see here, this is of one type, this is another shaped antigen with a different site. See here, this is of different shaped site. Okay, so this is the site of antigen with which it binds with the antibody, and this site is called as epitope. So what is this epitope means? Epitope is nothing but the antigen, the site on the antigen with which it binds with the antibody. So like antibody binding site. So the antigen with which it binds with the antibody. So that particular site is called as epitope. So it can be of this shape or this shape or this shape. Now, antigens, these can be any molecular substances such as polysaccharides, they may be proteins, peptides, lipoproteins, sometimes nucleoproteins, nucleic acids, etc. So any of these can become an antigen. So it can be a polysaccharide, protein, peptides, or lipoproteins, nucleoproteins, nucleic acids, okay? Or any foreign invaders which comes from outside into the body, such as pathogens, which includes bacteria or viruses, or sometimes these might be chemicals, toxins, and pollen grains, sometimes pollens, okay, that enter into our body. So sometimes these can also be acting like an antigen. Okay, So that induces an immunological response by our immune system. And under certain conditions, such as pathological conditions in the sense that when a person is suffering from a disease, any kind of infection, okay, so such conditions are called as pathological conditions, okay. Under such conditions, what happens, our normal cellular proteins generally, in a healthy person, these normal cellular proteins does not behave like or does not act like an antigen. But during these pathological conditions, because of these infections, okay, because of disease, what happens at that time, our normal cellular proteins also induce the immune system, okay, to produce antibodies, okay. So at that time, our normal cellular proteins can also become antigens, and as they are present inside our body, so they are generally called as self antigens, because they are nothing but our own bodily cells proteins, okay, the proteins that are present on the cell surface of our bodily cells, okay. So they are called as self antigens. If you see here, the antigens with different shapes of epitopes, with the different shapes of epitopes. These are the epitopes of different antigens, differently shaped epitopes. So an antigen contains a distinct site. So this is the site with which it binds with the antibody. Okay. So an antigen contains distinct sites on its surface, which is called an epitope. So this is called as an epitope, the site. Okay. Or it can be also called as antigenic determinant. So the epitopes can also be called as antigenic determinants. This slide also tells the same story. So this is the antigen, especially if you see, this is the red blood cell in our body, red blood cell. So as you have studied in your ninth class, blood grouping, we have different blood groups, isn't it? A blood group, B blood group, AB blood group, O blood group. Okay, so that is based on this antigen, A antigen, B antigen, isn't it? And at the same time, the blood groups are also further distinguished into positive, like A positive, A negative, B positive, B negative. Okay, so that is due to the presence and absence of this antigen on the surface of the red blood cell or erythrocyte, Rh antigen. Okay, so this is A antigen and this is B antigen. So all these antigens which do not come from outside, they are actually present in our body itself. They are attached on the cell surface of the red blood cells. Okay, so they can be called as endogenous antigens. So these are the antibodies. So here, see, this is the antigen and this is the antibody. So this antibody can bind with this antigen because of its shape. See, so this can clearly easily fits into this. And if you see this one, okay, so this antibody is meant to bind with this antigen, because if you see the shape of this antibody and the shape of the antigen, okay, so that tells the story that this antibody is specific to this antigen, whereas this antibody is specific to this antigen, and similarly the this antibody is specific to this antigen because of its shape. So this is like a compatibility. This can easily fix to this antigen. So as I already mentioned that antigens, like antibodies, are highly specific. And coming to the processing of antigen, so what is meant by the processing of antigen? So if you look at this picture, see, this is nothing but one kind of immune cells, nothing but macrophages. So this is one macrophage. So generally what happens if this macrophage, a cell, if it engulfs the pathogen, or if the pathogen enters into this macrophage cell, what happens? See, by the release of lysosomes, isn't it? The lysosomes, the cell organelles release certain enzymes. Okay, so lysosomes. So as these lysosomes release these destructive uh, enzymes, okay, inside the cell. Okay, so once these pathogens enter into the cell, later that pathogen is destructed or destroyed by these lysosomes with the release of these destructive enzymes. So by this, what happens, that is broken down into pieces and pieces. And now each such piece is called as antigenic fragment. So once the pathogen, either it may be a bacterial pathogen. In this case, if you see in this picture, so this is nothing but the bacterial pathogen entering into the cell. So once it enters into the cell, so what does these lysosomes do? They release the destructive enzymes, isn't it? So once these destructive enzymes are released, so this pathogen is destroyed, or it is ruptured into pieces, isn't it? So after the rupturing, after the destruction of this pathogen, so see here, these fragments are called as antigenic fragments. Okay, so this entire process is called as processing of antigen. This process is called as processing of antigen. Now coming to different types of antigens, mainly based on their origin. Okay, so the antigens can be of three types of them. One is exogenous antigens, second one is endogenous antigens, third one is autoantigens. So exo means outside. So these are the antigens that come from outside into the body. Okay, so like viruses, bacteria, or any kind of parasites or fungi, okay, or any kind of chemicals or toxins, even dust particles, so that enter into our body from the outside. Okay, so because of this, okay, so these antigens are called as exogenous antigens. And coming to endogenous means endo means within the body, within. Okay, that is like in our body itself. So as I already mentioned that, and during pathological conditions, what happens, our normal cellular proteins can act like a self antigens. Okay, so all such self antigens here, they can called as endogenous antigens, because these are the antigens that are present in the body itself, they do not come from outside. Okay, and coming to auto antigens, as I mentioned that, blood grouping antigens, isn't it? So like blood grouping antigens, we have seen on the surface of the red blood cell, we have A antigen, B antigen, Rh antigen. So like these are nothing but the auto antigens. And sometimes because of that an impairment in the genes, okay, so that can lead to autoimmune disease also. And coming to another category, based on their existence, okay, based on their existence, the antigens are again classified into free or circulating antigens, intracellular antigens, and cell surface antigens. So free or circulating antigens means the name itself denotes or represents that these are the antigens that are freely moving or freely circulating in the fluids of our body, different body fluids of our body, such as plasma, lymph, extracellular fluid. Okay, and coming to intracellular antigens, these are the antigens that are present inside the cell. Intra means inside, the cellular means cell. So the antigens which enter into the cell, which come into the cell, so such antigens are called as, which are present inside the cell, are called as intracellular antigens. And the antigens which are present on the cell surface, as I just told that, the blood grouping deciding antigens such as A antigen, B antigen, Rh antigen. Okay, so as these antigens are present on the surface of the RBC cells, okay, so they are called as cell surface antigens. And coming to the types of major histocompatibility complex, so this is also called as human leukocyte antigen system, simply abbreviated as HLA system. So what is this HLA stand for? Human leukocyte antigen system. Okay, so this is otherwise called as major histocompatibility complex. So there are two types of major histocompatibility complex molecules. Of them, one is class 1 MHCs, another one is class 2 MHCs. So class 1 MHC molecules, they are generally found on the surface of almost all nucleated cells of the body. So these class 1 MHC molecules are present on the surface of almost all nucleated cells of the body, and they generally present the antigens to TC cells. TC cells means T cytotoxic cells for cell mediated immunity. So these class 1 MHC molecules are involved in cell mediated immunity. Coming to the class 2 MHC molecules, they are found only on the surface of antigen presenting cells. So what does this APC stand for? Antigen presenting cells. So the class 2 MHC molecules are seen only on the surface of these cells, okay, and they present the antigens to TH cells, T helper cells, and they involve in, or they initiate the cell mediated immunity and as well as humoral immunity. So this is difference between the two different classes of MHC complex molecules. Okay, and students, coming to the different types of immunity. So based on the nature of response, the immunity is divided into two types. One is innate immunity. Innate immunity is also called as inborn immunity, which is of non-specific type. Another one is acquired immunity. This can be also called as adaptive immunity, which belongs to specific type, which belongs to specific type. So the innate immunity is like a general immunity. It is present in all living organisms, and this immunity, like this fights against all kinds of pathogens. It is non-specific. It can fight against any kind of pathogen that enter into our body. It can be a bacterium, it can be a virus, any kind of pathogen that enter into our body. Okay, so this is general, this is non-specific, and this comes from by birth. Okay, all the living organisms get this immunity by birth itself, and this is called as inborn immunity. Whereas acquired immunity is acquired by the organisms after the birth, during his course of living. Okay, as he gets exposed to a number of pathogens. Okay, so our body develops this kind of immunity. Okay, so such immunity acquired by the body of an individual person or an organism, okay, during his course of life, as he exposed to number of infectious agents. Okay, so such immunity is called as acquired immunity, and this is also called as adaptive immunity, and this is very, very specific because it is not similar in all persons, or it is not similar in all living organisms. This depends on the type of pathogen generally we expose to. So this is like a differences between innate immunity and acquired immunity. So this comes by birth, non-specific, and it does not depend on prior contact. So it is it is very common in almost all living organisms. Okay, whereas the acquired immunity, it comes after birth. It is acquired by the organism. It is pathogen specific. So the acquired immunity is very specific. As I mentioned, it is pathogen specific to that particular pathogen to which that particular person or the living organism exposed to, and it depends on prior contact. So if our body does not come in contact with a pathogen, so that immunity cannot be acquired by us. Okay, so for this, the prior contact is must. Okay, and this is mainly based on the immunological memory. So once our body is infected by a pathogen, okay, so it slowly develops this immunity, and the memory cells are produced in the course of this fighting against those pathogens, and these memory cells are involved in keeping a track of these pathogens, and that is called as, that phenomenon is called as immunological memory. And this varies from person to person, so this is not same in all persons or in all living organisms. This is not same. Coming to innate immunity, the innate immunity is provided by all these barriers. So as I already told about these barriers in the part 1, so physical barriers, which includes the skin, mucous membranes of different tracts, respiratory tract, gastrointestinal tract, and urinogenital tract. Okay, physiological barriers such as the gastric acid, okay, HCl, saliva, tears, especially the saliva and tears contains an enzyme called lysozyme, which kills the bacteria. Okay, and the cellular barriers such as polymorphonuclear leukocytes, nothing but neutrophils, which are commonly called as the microscopic policemen. Okay, so the cellular barriers means these also attack the pathogens. And cytokine barriers, as just you learned, that the cytokines like interferons, interleukins. Okay, so these come under the cytokine barriers. So all these barriers, physical barriers, physiological barriers, cellular barriers, and cytokine barriers provide innate immunity to all living organisms. Coming to acquired immunity, is further distinguished into two types, like active acquired immunity and passive acquired immunity. Active acquired immunity, let us differentiate between active acquired immunity and passive acquired immunity. So active acquired immunity means our body produces antibodies. In the body itself, the antibodies are produced against the antigens, or the antibodies are produced whenever pathogens enter into our body. So in response to those pathogens, our immune system starts producing antibodies. Okay, so this is called as active acquired immunity. Whereas passive acquired immunity means, passively means, here see, this is like a natural infection. If natural infection occurs, this active acquired. Okay, if if you take vaccination, okay, so that comes under passive acquired immunity. Active acquired immunity can be like a natural or artificial. So natural means if it occurs by natural means, if we acquire immunity by natural means. Okay, so that is called as natural active acquired immunity. For example, smallpox and chickenpox. So students, once a person, if he is affected by this smallpox or chickenpox on his lifetime, never he is reinfected by the same smallpox, or he will never reinfect by this chickenpox, because once the person infected by this smallpox virus or chickenpox virus, what happens in course of time in his body, the antibodies are produced against this smallpox virus or chickenpox virus. So as antibodies are produced by natural means on exposure to these viruses, it happens naturally, and antibodies are produced in this process. Okay, so this is called as a natural active acquired immunity. Okay, whereas artificial, especially if you see the vaccination process, immunization process, like injection of tetanus toxin, this is like taking injection vaccination. Okay, as a part of vaccination, so children are given these injections. Okay, so once this injection is given, tetanus, TT, we simply call it as TT. TT is nothing but tetanus toxin. If this injection is given to children, what happens in their body? Okay, so the production of antibodies takes place, and the production of antibodies, these antibodies fight against this tetanus. Okay, so as these antibodies are produced against this, okay, so in the course of time in his development, okay, in the future, that boy or girl, that kid, okay, whenever he is exposed to this tetanus, so these antibodies will protect his body. Okay, so such kind as antibodies are produced in the body, so this can be called as active. But here this does not occur naturally, because we are giving injections. As we are giving TT, so now his immune system is producing antibodies against this antigens. Okay, as these antigens are taken in the form of injections, now his immune system start producing antibodies against this specific antigen. Okay, so this is called as artificial acquired immunity. Now coming to passive, further, the passive acquired immunity is also differentiated into two more types, like again natural passive acquired immunity and artificial passive acquired immunity. So if you see the natural, so here in the passive acquired immunity, our body do not produce antibodies, but simply the antibodies are transferred. The antibodies are transferred. The preformed antibodies are transferred into our body, either through natural process or through artificial process. If it occurs through natural process, this is called as natural passive. So by naturally, the antibodies from a donor to a recipient occurs. So this is called as passive, natural passive acquired immunity. If it happens artificially, that is called as artificial passive acquired immunity. Let us see with an example. So here in the natural case, so the transfer of antibodies from mother to child through colostrum. So students, what is meant by colostrum? Colostrum is nothing but the yellowish milk which comes from the mammary glands of the mother soon after the delivery. So during breastfeeding, lactation, so what happens? The child sucks the nipples of the mother. Okay, so the mother breastfeeds. Okay, she provides milk. Okay, so that milk, the initial milk produced by the mother soon after the delivery, is called as colostrum. Okay, so this colostrum consists of the antibodies, especially IgA antibodies. Okay, so these antibodies are actually produced in the mother and they are transferred to the child. Okay, so as the antibodies are produced in the mother and transferred to the child, and once these antibodies enter into the child, okay, again they provide that immunity. Okay, so as this child is acquiring this immunity by a natural process, okay, so this comes under natural passive acquired immunity. Coming to artificial, for example, anti-tetanus serum, anti-rabies serum, or anti-venom, that is like an injection which is prepared against the snake's poison. So for example, if a poisonous snake bites, what happens? That poison enters into our body and that will kill the person. Okay, so generally how the medicine for this is poison of the snake is prepared. Okay, so the anti-venom injection is prepared with the help of the poison of the snake. So the poison is collected from the poisonous snakes. Okay, in small doses, the poison is like it is given to like a donor animal, like either it can be a horse or it can be a sheep. So in small amounts, in small doses, this poison is injected into a horse or into a sheep. So slowly what happens? Their body, their immune system, okay, tries to produce antibodies against to this poison which is injected into their body, which is injected into their blood. So in course of time, if you keep on increasing these doses over a period of time, so over a period of time, what happens? Finally that sheep or that snake, that horse, okay, it gets immunized to that particular poison. So by collecting the blood of that particular animal, the serum is separated, okay, and that serum now contains antibodies to that particular poison, and that is taken as antivenom, that is like a antivenom injection to that particular poison. Okay, so this comes under artificial passive acquired immunity. So as these antibodies are preformed in the immunized donor, so here horse or sheep, they are considered as the immunized donors. Okay, so from their serum those antibodies are transferred into the person. Okay, so as these antibodies are transferred from immunized donor to the recipient or to the individual who requires that immunity, okay, so this is called as artificial passive acquired immunity. So on a whole, there are two types of immunity, like innate immunity, adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity is again differentiated into different types, as I mentioned just now. So this picture clearly shows how the differentiation of immunity takes place: adaptive immunity, natural, artificial. So here our body itself produces antibodies. Transfer of antibodies. Artificial means transfer of antibodies. Natural, naturally antibodies are produced. Okay, whereas from mother to child, passive. Okay, again artificial, again passive and active. So immunization comes under active, whereas antibody transfer, like just we have seen the antivenom, anti-tetanus serum, anti-rabies serum, that comes under a passive artificial immunity. Now coming to the based on the types of responses evoked or shown, evoked in the sense that shown by the immune system. Okay, so based on this, again immunity is of two types, like humoral immunity, cell mediated immunity. Humoral immunity means humors means body fluids. Okay, so as these body fluids are involved in evoking the immunity against the pathogens. Okay, so such immunity is called as humoral immunity. And cell mediated immunity, here itself, see, the immunity is mediated by cells. So different immune cells are involved, okay, in providing this immunity, and so such immunity is called as cell mediated immunity. And here as body fluids are involved, so this is called as humoral immunity. So humoral immunity mediated by the antibodies which are released into the body fluids. So these body fluids are called as humors, hence called humoral immunity. So what are these body fluids? Such as plasma and lymph. And this is generated due to the interaction of B cells, especially the humoral immunity is provided by the B cells. Okay, so whenever the free antigens enter into our body, immediately the B cells respond. Okay, and during this process, what happens? Immediately the B cells produce antibodies. In the part one, I mentioned that B cells are the cells which are capable of capturing the free circulating antigens, isn't it? And the B cells has got the ability of producing antibodies. So if you see this picture, so this is the mature B cell. So this is the free antigen when it comes in contact with this free antigen. Okay, so what happens immediately? Certain cytokinins are released, especially interleukins. So interleukins, what does they do? They stimulate and they activate and they are responsible for the differentiation of the T cells. Okay, so the T cells are differentiated into effector plasma cells and as well as long-lived memory cells. So these long-lived memory cells are responsible for that immunological memory, whereas these effector plasma cells, they attack the antigens. Okay, and either they phagocytose. Okay, what happens? Cell lysis. So all these destruction process of that particular antigen takes place in the course of humoral immunity. So free anti after this binding, what happens? The mature B cells engulf, swallow that antigen, and that is broken down into pieces. And now this is called processing of antigens. Later, what happens? Those pieces are called as antigenic fragments. So they are displayed on their B cells, on the surface of the B cells. Okay. So with the help of class 2 MHC molecules. So these class 2 MHC molecules are responsible in the displaying of these antigenic fragments on the cell surface. So when these antigenic fragments are displayed, so by this what happens? The T helper cells recognize these antigenic fragments and they release interleukins. And as interleukins are released, they are responsible for the proliferation, nothing but the division of the cells. The B cells divide rapidly, quickly, to produce several B cells of its own kind. Similar type of B cells are produced, okay, and they are differentiated into memory cells and plasma cells. So all this is brought by the interleukins, okay. So plasma cells release again specific antibodies and into the plasma and extracellular fluids, and these antibodies go and bind with those antigens, okay. And here the humoral immunity is mainly the antibodies are involved in the humoral immunity. So as these antibodies helps in opsonizing and immobilizing the antigens. So this is the mechanism of humoral immunity, as I just mentioned here. So this picture clearly shows the mechanism of humoral immunity. So this is another picture which also shows the same mechanism of humoral immunity. So students, just remember that humoral immunity is mediated by B cells, okay, and the antibodies production is involved in the humoral immunity. So these are the antibodies produced during the mechanism of humoral immunity. And here, see, we will be seeing these processes during the humoral immunity: neutralization, agglutination, precipitation. So all these come under phagocytosis. So either neutralization, what happens? Neutralization means the effect of antigen is neutralized by the antibodies. So the antibodies will neutralize the effect of antigen. So that process is called as neutralization. Ultimately, what happens? That leads to phagocytosis. Agglutination is nothing but the process of clumping. So especially what happens? The insoluble antigens. In the case of insoluble antigens, okay, so the antibodies like work like glue together, like gum, okay. So the antibodies combine with one another, glue together, combine together, okay, and they bind with the antigens, okay, and clumping process takes place. So that is called as agglutination, especially in the case of insoluble antigens. And by this clumping, what happens? That is like attracted by the phagocytes, and they undergo a process called as phagocytosis. And finally, precipitation is in the case of soluble antigens. So soluble antigens, again here what happens? The antibodies again combine together with one another, like glue together, okay. They bind with antigens, okay, and they forcibly make these antigens to undergo a process called as solubility, okay. And finally the soluble antigens precipitate, okay. So again these are attracted by the phagocytes, again they undergo a process called as phagocytosis. So on a whole, these three different kinds of processes are seen in the humoral immunity: neutralization, agglutination, precipitation. Agglutination is nothing but clumping. Precipitation is also nothing but clumping, but it is in the case of insoluble antigens. Precipitation is in the case of soluble antigens. So all these three finally leads to phagocytosis. Whereas complement system, as you have seen that complement proteins is in the part 2, just in the earlier beginning of this session, okay. Complement proteins, more than 30 proteins are there which together form a complement system. So these are responsible in the swelling and burst. This is called as cell lysis. As I already mentioned, that what is this process? So they enter into the cell, they make the cell to swell, okay. At one point of time the cell will burst. So that is called as lysis, nothing but cell death, okay. Cell lysis takes place by this complement system. So these are the pictures. So this is neutralization, this is agglutination, this is precipitation in the case of soluble antigens, this is in the case of insoluble antigens. So all these leads to phagocytosis, that is engulfing the antigen or swallowing the antigen, and later on disintegration or destruction takes place. Whereas the complement system is involved by more than 30 proteins together form the complement system, leads to swell and burst. So all these materials, proteins, okay, enter into the cell, make it swell, and finally the bursting of the cell takes place. That is nothing but the death of the cell. This is called a cell lysis. So these are the important stages of the humoral immunity. Important stages of the humoral immunity. Students, please go through these points, okay. At least if you remember these points, it will be very helpful for you while writing the answer for the mechanism of humoral immunity. It is very, very important for intermediate point of view. Coming to the another type of immunity, that is cell mediated, as the name itself implies that this is mediated by the cells. Okay, hence this is called a cell mediated immunity. So this is activated by T cells, natural killer cells. So the T cells, natural killer cells are involved in this cell mediated immunity. So this is effective against both exogenous and endogenous antigens. As I already mentioned, that exogenous means coming from outside, endogenous means within the body. Okay, and here in the cell mediated immunity, we does not see the production of antibodies. Okay, so the cell mediated immunity, here there is no question of production of antibodies, though this does not involve the production of antibodies. Antibodies are not produced during the mechanism of cell mediated immunity. Okay, especially the antigen presenting cells. So the antigen presenting cells, they effectively bind with exogenous antigens. So this is the picture showing. So this is the exogenous antigens coming from outside the body. So this antigen presenting cell, okay, process the antigen presenting cell effectively process the exogenous, whereas the altered self cells, they effectively process the endogenous antigens. Endogenous antigens means the antigens within the body, produced in the body. Okay, so the altered self cells effectively process the endogenous antigens. So this is the picture that is present in the textbook. So it is there in the textbook. So please go through this picture carefully. So these are antigen presenting cells, altered self cells. Okay, so once these antigens are engulfed by them, so they are broken down. Once they are broken down, so they are converted into antigenic fragments. Okay, so they are displayed on their cell surfaces with the help of MHC class 2. Okay, so these are displayed on the cell surfaces with the MHC class 2 complex. So when the T cells come and recognize these antigens, so immediately what happens, interleukins, again they are responsible for the stimulation, activation, proliferation, and differentiation of the T cells. Okay, so the T cells are differentiated into TC cells and effector CTL, that is cytotoxic T lymphocytes. Okay, so the cytotoxic T lymphocytes will release two different substances like perforins. What does they do? Perforins are a kind of enzymes that will make pores on the surface of this infected cell. Okay, so this is the infected cell and this is the cell membrane. Okay, so it's a cell membrane is made punctured with the help of these perforins, so they make pores. Okay, so once these pores are made, so these perforins, and after entering into the cells, along with the Granz enzymes, okay, what happens? So these Granz enzymes release certain enzymes such as caspases. These are nothing but again proteins. Okay, Granz enzymes again release caspases, a kind of enzymes that will destroy the cell, like a programmed cell death. So this is nothing but a programmed cell death. Okay, so that is called apoptosis, death, which is brought by these cells with the help of perforins and Granz enzymes. And students, these are the important stages in the mechanism of cell mediated immunity. These are the important stages: processing of antigens by these T cells become cytotoxic T lymphocytes, and they release perforins and Granz enzymes, and later the programmed cell death occurs, that is apoptosis. So this is the picture showing the mechanism of cell mediated immunity. So see, this is a macrophage infected cell. So here again, antigen MHC complex, memory T cells, helper cells. Okay, cytokines, interleukins are released, and perforins, Granz enzymes, and finally the death of the cell takes place. Now let us distinguish between perforins and Granz enzymes, because that is also very important question, students. Perforins, these are generally produced by cytotoxic T lymphocytes or natural killer cells. So the natural killer cells or cytotoxic T lymphocytes will produce these perforins. It is nothing but a pore forming protein. This is a protein which makes pores on the cell surface of the infected cell. Okay, and they are also known as cytoplasmic granule toxins, and these are responsible for pore formation in cell membranes of target cells or the infected cells. Okay, coming to granzymes. So granzymes are nothing but serine proteases. They belong to this family, serine proteases, and they are released by the cytoplasmic granules within cytotoxic T cells and as well as natural killer cells. So the natural killer cells and cytotoxic T cells will produce these granzymes, and they induce programmed cell death. So the granzymes are mainly responsible for the programmed cell death, which is called as apoptosis in the target cell. Target cell in the sense that infected cell or affected cell. Okay, and these granzymes are packaged in cytotoxic granules with perforins. So perforins form pores on the cell surface. Along with these perforins, the granzymes enter into the cell. They release caspases, proteins, and destroy the cell, leading to the cell death. Okay, so that is called as apoptosis. So like perforins, granzymes. So this is the picture showing two different immunities, humoral immunity. So this is humoral immunity and this is cell-mediated immunity. This is also another picture, students. This is for your understanding. I have placed many pictures. Humoral immunity. This is cell-mediated immunity. This is brought by antibodies, and this is by the effect of cells. Again, humoral response or cell-mediated response, immune responses. Students, from this completed topic, the important questions for the intermediate. Okay, so the 2 marks questions are like, what are complement proteins? Okay, colostrum is very much essential for the newborn infants. Justify. So this is very important question. Many times it was asked in the exams. Okay, IP exams. And differentiate between perforins and granzymes. Just now I explained what are perforins and granzymes. Okay, they are released by cytotoxic T lymphocytes. Okay, so these are for 2 marks. Colostrum is the milk, okay, that is given to the newborn child by the mother soon after the delivery, which contains antibodies. Okay, so colostrum is very, very essential. It provides the immunity. It provides immunity to the newborn child for the first few weeks, because till then the child is present inside the uterus. So once after the delivery, he comes into this external world. Okay, his body is exposed to many kind of infectious agents. Okay, he does not have that strong immunity. Okay, so meanwhile, what happens with the breastfeeding? Okay, as mother provides the child her milk. Okay, so this colostrum, as it contains antibodies. Okay, so the child's body will have these antibodies, and initially these antibodies will protect the child from the initial infections. And the 4 marks questions are, describe various types of immunities as we have seen, explain the mechanism of humoral immunity, which is mediated by the B lymphocytes with the help of antibodies. Okay, explain the mechanism of cell mediated immunity. So these are the 4 marks questions, very, very important. So students, so far we have discussed the soluble mediators of the immune system, different types of antibodies, antigens, and different types of immunity. And finally, we have seen humoral immunity and cell-mediated immunity. In the next part, we will be discussing the vaccination and immunization and different immunological disorders. Thank you, students.
Sir, మాట్లాడదాం. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much. Children, students, please revisit the channel and make a notes.